言うことは一つだけ。絶対負けねえ。これが超絶スカイホークシュートだ。俺のパワーには誰もかなえはしない。
Hey everybody, it's Nothing XS here with a new player analysis video. We've got the Warring World Warriors banner, Dream Collection. Pretty interesting because it came very early in the month, which leads me to believe we might get another Dream Collection in just another week or 2 weeks, which is pretty strange, but also kind of interesting because the players that came out are actually quite nice. We've got Galvan, carefully aimed fierce tackle, the first defensive midfielder in the South American archetype. We've got Rivaul, game controlling monster lefty, a forward. Also an attacking midfielder, but primarily a forward. Then we've got the comebacks of Juan, Diaz, genius dribble with a hidden ability evolution, and Pascal, harmonious super combo with the hidden ability evolution. Additionally, we're also going to cover Roberto Hongo, which is the prize for the current banner, so let's talk about them really quick. First off, Galvan, carefully aimed fierce tackle. South America's first defensive midfielder with defender as a secondary position. He comes out of the gacha, and he's pretty interesting for the first defensive midfielder for South America. If it's only because there's like a huge contrast between what success and failure both look like. On the successful side, you have a player in the midfield with 12k tackle, 10.4k block, and 10k intercept, all of which are pretty good for handling a lot of his defensive duties. His tackle is a 450 momentum, 420 stamina tackle. It's just generic enough so as to potentially be farmable in the future from some free unit. Additionally, he also has from other gacha units S high power block, which is 450, 445 stamina, and S full power intercept, also 450 but 365. That makes him pretty decent, incredible defensive triple threat out of the defensive midfield position. But then you look at his offensive stats and you stare for a long time because 6.2k dribble, 6.3k shot, and 5.7k pass. Those numbers are so bad they kind of bring to mind the old event EX pass cut Ishizaki. Many people often malign that character for being completely unable to contribute on offense, and he was only good defensively. So that is something to be aware of. Anyway, there's a bit more. If you play him with 8 other South American players, he gets a 15% buff, which pushes the numbers to 13.9k tackle, 11.5k intercept, and 12k block. His offense is still non-existent, but few players can deal with any S tackle, block, or intercept at those numbers. You may have concerns about his offense, but this man will surely have the defensive side of things properly taken care of. His position is defensive midfielder and defender. Role, defense. I think he's S tier, and would I pull for him? Well, maybe. I did, but it's because I could. So let's talk about the limit breaks that he has. He's got 2 different limit breaks that I would suggest. We've got the first one, assuming you have a spare full power intercept and you'll be using that a lot more than you ever will use your block. This is a more traditional defensive midfielder build, focused mostly on tackle and interception, both things that defensive DMs are heavily interested in doing. So 25, 25, 25, 25 tackle speed intercept technique. But what's that, you say? You want to block shots from a long distance, or you're going to play this guy more at a defender position than up in someone's face, or you like to hold the defense stance? Well, there's a limit break for that too, although you will still mostly go in on tackling. There's a 3-way defense one. It's 25 tackle speed, 2203 block power, and 2203 intercept technique. For his grading, as you can see, he can't score or enable other players, but his defense is top-notch. Because his defense is top-notch and he has high... he will have high speed in any build that focuses on his tackling. He'll have pretty good speed, really. And also, decent enough intercept that passing over him will be difficult. That means he has S pressure. He's not particularly independent because his offense being so low means that he does have to find someone to dump the ball off to so that he doesn't lose the ball. He's also not very flexible. He can only really do defensive duties. And he's not very durable. He doesn't have a lot of stamina at all. He has pretty okay skill support, he has a good team skill and good passive. The team skill is quite nice for Rainbow South America teams, and as soon as a real goalkeeper for them emerges, you may start seeing some actual Rainbow South America teams begin to hit the field in a hurry. Having a decent amount of intercept with OK speed that's buffed to 6.7k if played with South American players and 7.9k with every limit break suggested, it means that he might be able to reposition himself in such a way when getting the ball that he can open up a small safe passing lane. Most of the green players lately have been very much the kind of players where you, the player, have to actually do a lot of micromanagement and play them carefully to actually get the most out of them, and this Galvan is no exception. 623 stamina and high stamina costs do mean he goes through his gas tank very quickly though. As you can see, the stats breakdown, 923 stamina, as we just mentioned, not very good, but he is okay at high balls. That does result in absolute garbage offense, but 12k tackle, 10.4k block, 10k intercept. That does also mean that his clear and defensive trapping are quite good, but that he can't really tussle for the ball on offense or trap on offense, which he is not expected to do. For his skill build, his S high power tackle is what he comes with. If you have a copy of S full power intercept, give it to him. Otherwise, just keep only the A, and also S high power block if you have a copy. Otherwise, you can give him A power block if you have it available. Also, A high power tackle when you can get it, and don't even worry about the A dribble that he has. Just remove it. If it looks like a redundant skill list, it kind of is. Take the S versions of your skills and add them on, and for the tackle, it will be the A version. The dribble won't ever really save you, as your only real offensive option is to wipe past the ball away. But it's better to have some additional stamina granularity for when you can afford it, because you don't want to run yourself out of stamina too fast. So if you can use an A skill safely and you think you'll be able to do just fine with it, do so. Next up, we've got Rivaul, game controlling monster Lefty. We were all a lot more excited and amazed by him when we were reading just the skills and features of this player before we actually saw him fully released with stats and everything. Because remember, he got spoiled on K-Lab Game Station, so we got to see a lot about him. The biggest thing that people noted was his catch killer passive absolutely nuking any goalkeeper for 50% if they dared to use a catch. Now that he's released, he's certainly not bad, but he's not the crazy player we thought he'd be. So first and foremost, with a passive like that, you can't also make the guy a clearly obviously good shooter. He can only be good enough to threaten catchers into having to punch. That means his base shot is 10.1k, which is really lackluster for a new player if you aren't considering the passive. The problem there is that the players he's intended to beat also have ways of defeating them. Dreamfest Genzo comes with a passive to crush non-Japanese players, for instance. Second, he's not very fast, with just 4.8k speed base, meaning he's not really going anywhere in a hurry. That makes him kind of immobile, which is really bad for players like this. Lastly, his skill support is still kind of bad, and while finally seeing S Skyhawk shot is neat, there's just not much else to talk about. Good passing, but no good passes, rare 1-2, not really good at defending, doesn't come with his best dribble, which is the A Rivaul turn. The list just keeps going and going. So, who exactly is this character supposed to be? Is it supposed to be just Dreamfest Espadas? And anyway, so his position is forward and attacking midfielder. His roles are striker, sniper, and enabler. Sniper is just a new way of saying long shot or a long shooter because it conveys the same meaning. I think he's still A tier, but I wouldn't pull for him. If you really need him for some reason, then sure. But he's not like a must-have player, even if you're trying to play Red South America, which doesn't exist yet. I wouldn't go too crazy for him, especially because they haven't done hidden ability evolutions for the old goalkeepers. That would make me more interested in Red South America, but since that's not a real thing and this guy is not really changing the game or anything, I would not go too crazy. For his limit breaks, he have the standard striker limit break given to him because he must shore up his lackluster speed somehow, and because he's sufficiently good enough at dribbling that just taking 500 total to it is enough. His passing is also quite good, truth be told, which makes him decent at wide passing, but you don't want to run new Golden Duo on a South American team, and NRS is very rare. So standard striker, 25 speed, 25 shot, 25 power, and then 2203 pass technique. Now if you're going to go old style striker, remember this is how people used to build strikers before they realized how important speed was. But if you really want to do this because you want more dribble points, then it's 2203, 2525, 2203, only offensive and physical categories. For his grading, he is an A scorer. He basically, anytime you face a goalkeeper that can punch, you're not doing much, and anytime you face a goalkeeper that only catches, then you're set. But if you're facing a goalkeeper that can do a little bit of both, then again you're back at square one. His enabling is S, which is quite nice. You know, he does have a lot of opportunity to enable. His skill support isn't there to help that. He can't really defend, really doesn't apply any pressure, even with his A interception skill, because he doesn't have much interception. He is fairly independent though, he doesn't really need a whole lot of players. The biggest issue is NRS. Flexibility, not incredibly flexible, but he can be played at two different locations because he is a sniper. And then his durability, he has bad stamina, and his skill support, it's just Rivaul, and Rivaul still is missing all sorts of skills. His team skill is also not that great, it's just 10% non-Japan, but his passive is excellent. If he was a little bit stronger, maybe his passive would actually carry him more. If you see this and wonder how he's an A tier unit with all those C's, you gotta remember that he's still pretty decent at what he needs to do. Even if pinpoint pass EX is prohibitively expensive, it's still enough to get the ball at someone's feet on short notice, even if it feels bad to do so. Even if NRS is rare and expensive, it's still a good skill, and against goalkeepers who cannot have a punch as a backup, let S Skyhawk shot rip and watch as you can practically see the player on the other side melt down as the opponent's disconnection window pops up when they realize what they're in for. You won't need to rely on other players unless you use your 1-2s, and having 2 positions and being able to take long shots from the second is nice. Not sure why they didn't give him like A and RS, by the way. For his actual stats, 914 stamina, again not great. You can see that his defense is kind of non-existent and his speed very low. That does result in 9.3k dribble, 10.1k shot, and 9.3k pass. The other defensive skills are 10.4k tackle and 10.5k intercept. Kind of okay, but not too great. Has a tough time clearing the ball on defense, but obviously he's never going to do that. Really, 10k tussle is not bad, and 9.5k offensive trapping is also not bad. For a skill build, he comes with S Skyhawk Shot. If you can give him the S and RS, do so. Also with the A Rivaul turn. If not, his high-speed South American dribble is, I suppose, fine. A Pinpoint Pass EX if you have a copy of it. I don't like it, but it's the best you can do for now. If you can find, or if there's an A Pass ever released for him, use that instead. And then A Skyhawk Intercept. It feels bad giving him A Pinpoint Pass EX, what else can you do? No Rivaul version inexplicably comes with a passing skill, and he desperately wants one that isn't garbage. Having 1-2 skills is good to beat defenders' offside traps, particularly if you're up against a goalkeeper who doesn't think Rivaul can be beat, or rather, against a goalkeeper you don't think Rivaul can beat. Otherwise, you will mostly be dropping the ball to Rivaul for him to shoot away repeatedly with. Next up, and the player that a lot of people are probably waiting the most for a review of, is Juan Díaz, the genius dribbler. And boy, he's interesting. So let's get this out of the way. Let's just get this out of the way first. It's kind of confirmed that Caleb watches my streams or reads my notes at this point, right? Because listen, Caleb looked at this Diaz and went, well, how the hell do we fix him? And they decided that they weren't going to bother actually making him a ball of stats because he has Insight Master, goddammit, and they're going to make him the thinking man's player and not just another run-of-the-mill ball of stats. Because that's boring. So here's what they did. First off, they gave him a ton of stamina, just a bunch of it. Second, they reduced his stamina cost by a lot. And third off, they made it so that if you win a matchup, you get a big buff until your team loses the ball. You can get that buff 3 times. You might be thinking that doesn't seem all that crazy, but the buff is cumulative and goes all the way up to 90%. My original idea called for the old blue Diaz to make his dribbling skills after the first free, encouraging people to use multiple dribbles in a matchup, and every time he successfully dribbled past someone, he'd get a stat buff to a certain cap. This is a lot cleaner. You just guess right 3 times with Diaz before losing possession of the ball to the opponent, and you'll get a 90% buff. Anytime the opponent touches the ball and recovers it, the buff seems to go away. That's what people are telling me from testing him. I haven't found them, so I couldn't tell you. But with that, Diaz is now the ultimate thinkers player. He relies on momentum and a gambler's reads to win the day. He's not broken, but he's really interesting and possibly very effective. Looking at his hidden abilities, we're going to take a quick look. Stamina cost down, that is a double S rated hidden ability. He already has a lot of stamina, 1205, and so a 30% stamina reduction to skills is frankly incredibly good. And you need to use a lot of skills to build up your matchup win bonus, which we'll talk about eventually. Enhanced special skills shooting, also double S. It's a 35% buff to all of his grounded shots. That's intended to make your last action that you take really, really strong, because you will have 90% bonus stats, and on top of that, you'll multiply the shot by another 35%, which is wildly good. My team all stats plus 5%. It makes Pascal 5% stronger. That's it. That's all it does. It's nice, I guess, if you're running him with Pascal, and I guess you should. Bumpy ground resistance C, whatever, PvE stuff, cool beans. And finally, matchup win bonus, which is another double S. The more you win matchups, the stronger you get, up to 90%, gaining 30% each time. The bonus resets when you lose the ball as a team, not specifically if you give the ball to another player. So you can like wipe past the ball and then white one to it sort of back. And as long as the ball makes it to Diaz, he seems to keep the buff. This is what makes this Diaz terrifying. If you build him up in 3 moves and then execute the goalkeeper. Maxed out, he has the strongest ground shot in the game, bar none. Anybody else, the only stronger shot in the game is actually an air shot. It's from the other hidden ability in Diaz, and it's only if you're facing Mueller, and only if it's a header, and only if the header is maxed out. So think about that one. He is a forward and attacking midfielder. He is a striker, utility, and defender. He kind of does a little bit of everything because that's kind of what he is. Like, there's no real interesting role to put him in. He's like basically a playmaker. Tier, he's S tier. He's not double S because he's too hard to use, honestly. Most people are not going to know what to do with him. Good players are going to go crazy with this guy, and everybody else is going to be like, oh, I don't get it. Anyways, should you pull for him? Maybe. If you're willing to put in the effort to actually learn how to play with him, yes. For his limit breaks, Diaz wants all kinds of stats all over the place, and Insight Master being 100% means that it's hard to really know what to focus on. However, he does have 9k dribble from the get-go, so if you work off of that theory and build from there, you want to dribble to eventually score, so be fast, be good at dribbling, and be good at scoring. So level up dribble, speed, shot, and power by 25. Now, if you're more looking forward to trying to do everything just a little bit better while still focusing on shooting, the big alternative is to go with the limit break instead, which is the old school style of level up everything, since passives and hidden abilities that indiscriminately make your large percent better at everything tend to work well with this limit break. So you do the balanced breakfast limit break, which is 889 first row, 997 bottom row, and 25-25 shot power. For his grading, he is an A at scoring, enabling, defending. He's rather independent. He has decent skill support, which is also an A, and he has a good team skill, which is also an A. For scoring and enabling, I mean, his scoring is only good when you get to the certain point. His enabling is only good if you guess right, and eventually when you get to a certain point. And the same thing with his defense. So long as you guess right, he's pretty solid. However, let's talk about, like, how can you even grade this guy? The thing about him is that you can't easily just put ratings on him because he gets better as you guess properly. Pressure is about the pressure you exert by being on the field in a position. I think that he doesn't exert pressure in the way an auto interceptor normally exerts it. He exerts it in a different way, which makes this a difficult rating here too. Like, if you guess wrong, if he comes down on you, you have to determine whether you want to, like, try to get into the guessing game with the opponent, right? Because if they guess right and you guess wrong, you have to deal with an immediately 30% stronger Diaz who has the ball, and everything's cheap for him, right? So that's bad. That's really bad. Also, if you have him on the field with enough auto intercept from somebody else, even though his interception stats very low, because Swift Interception A80EX, there's enough of them roaming around. If you give that to him and he procs an auto intercept and takes the ball, my understanding is that he immediately gets to 30% as well. So you have to kind of worry about him for a lot of reasons. In a solo South America team, I think he's actually probably crazy broken. But, you know, I'm not 100% sure how I really feel about him altogether. But listen, independence, he needs other players to dump the ball to if he has a bad matchup coming up, but he'd really almost always rather keep the ball, and he wants Pascal for the 1-2 factor. At the end of the day, how do you rate him? He can do a bit of everything even when he's bad at it pre-passive, because guessing right is basically guaranteed victory. Every time he wins, he becomes much stronger. He might be hard to use, but every success is greatly rewarded. I think he's very flexible, I think he's very durable, I think his hidden skills are crazy, and I think his passive is crazy. And so it's like a weird balancing act. He's so hard to use that I didn't put like a difficulty part for grading, but I feel like maybe I should have instead of something else like flexibility. He is very difficult to use. If you're smart at this game and you're good at it and you can read players and you can make good ass reads depending on what information you've seen from other players, he might just be like the best character in the game. But if you're not, he's actually useless. And that's the weird tightrope balance that this character has to like work with, and also why I think he's actually probably the most fun character in the game right now. Like, I really want to get him, if only because I want to try him out. I want to play with him. I want to see what cool stuff I can do with him, and I want to see if I can like do a lot of damage with him in like different cups. Maybe he has a spot on a Dream Championship team. I don't know, but that 90% is wild. In fact, if you do have him, he is a candidate for Dream Championship, by the way. He is right up there. He has low stats. He's basically about Hyuga level in stats, the Stormy Hyuga, but he gives a lot more to a team than Stormy Hyuga does in terms of features. And if you guess right a few times, he's gonna demolish somebody. So think about that. For his stats, 1205 stamina, crazy high. And as you can see, his in-match stats, base, 9k dribble, everything else sucks. It's in the 6s or 7s. What happens if you win one matchup? 11.7 dribble, 8.6 shot, 9.2 pass, 9.4 tackle, 7.8 block, and 8.7 intercept. Already a much better player. What happens if you win two matchups? 14.4 dribble, 10.6 shot, 11.3 pass, 11.5 tackle, and 10.8 intercept. That's already insane. That's like a Dreamfest character with full of steroids. Like, it's just bonkers good. It makes World Cup Aoi look silly. But what happens if you get the big kahuna and you manage to reach 90% buff? 17k dribble. You're going to dribble everyone whether they want to or not at that point. 12.6k shot, 13.4k pass, 13.7k tackle, 11.5k block, and 12.8k intercept. absolutely unstoppable monster once he gets to 90%. You could just literally probably white dribble a bunch of people at that point, because what the hell else are other people going to do? For a skill build, S street dribble is what he comes with. If you have a dupe of the Dreamfest Diaz, give him S triple gymnastic shot. The old red Diaz, Dreamfest Diaz is old enough that you might be able to just pull it off. If you are going to play this character more in a green mixed team, then maybe a twin drive shot might be an option if you run Tsubasa. A Argentinian duo, quite nice on him if you're going to run Pascal at all. If not, I would consider maybe not like a volley or anything like that, because he doesn't really use those as well as he uses ground shot, but maybe you might want to consider A drive pass instead. B crisis tackle, don't use the A1. The A1's way too expensive, and the B1's actually really strong for B skill. And then Ace with the Deception EX. At full 90% with full limit broken shot, he's hitting 99,413 with S triple gymnastic shot because of the enhanced special skills shooting hidden ability. That's going to make him 9 unstoppable. You can get him to that point. You have to understand that 99.4k is better than anybody else in the game. It's actually the strongest shot in the game, like, except for the other Diaz in that one circumstance. That's wild. It's better than every goalkeeper can do regardless of the situation. Like, this character is bonkers wild. Even with just 60%, he's already a shooting threat. And his skills, S dribble 200 stamina, S shot 305 stamina, rad as hell. That does mean that, by the way, you can almost shoot 4 times a half with this guy. Because he has 1200 stamina. Like, in a perfect world where you would actually have already your 90% because, I don't know, you did some cool stuff, you would be able to S shot 4 times and a half. But you can't. But you'll be able to, like, S dribble 3 people in one matchup for 600 stamina. And if you were to, like, pop full power, my understanding, by the way, is that we just tested this with a league match. It turns out that if you have stamina saving, it's not that you take the new stamina value that you saved with the 30% stamina, cheaper stamina. It's actually that the 50% is additive, so everything's 80% cheaper. From what I saw, it could be like a weird bug. Maybe there was a weird league bug, but that's how it worked with the cults, with the green Dream Collection cults. So you might be able to get like 80% off your skills on full power. So think about that, because that means that if you hit full power, you give the ball to Diaz and you just have him go crazy, because he might get all the way there on basically like super budget and then murder the goalkeeper, and that sounds nuts. The mind games are going to be delicious. Run up to a defender at 60% somewhere close to the goal. Does he tackle or does he block? Which are you going to do? If he tackles and you shoot, you win, right? If he tackles and you 1-2, you win, and then you're buffed. If he tackles and you shoot, you get buffed by winning that matchup, and then your shot eviscerates the goal because it's 90% shot. If he blocks and you dribble or 1-2, you're now a 90% open man. Like, this character's wild. Just K-Lab, just give him to me. Just ship him to me. Listen, I did all of the design work for you for this character, okay? You know it. I know it. Just put him in my inbox. Thank you and God bless. Next up, we've got Untitled Pascal, Harmonious Super Combo. I'll admit this guy wasn't really on my list of characters that really needed to receive a hidden ability evolution. I suspect every Dream Collection player will eventually get one in time, even the 2 that were just released. He's already kind of a terror when it was his turn on defense, because he was able to pressure people into making mistakes just by being sticky enough to clog the midfield. Remember, he has 80% auto intercept. Also, he put early pressure on forwards at kickoff or on the back of the opponent's field when the defenders have the ball. He didn't really excel at much of anything else. He had okay passing and dribbling. Actually, he had good passing and okay dribbling. He was okay enough at getting rid of the ball afterwards that wasn't too big of a deal. Now he's tripled down on his ability to intercept. First off, he increased the power of his interceptions by 20%. He grants every other South American player on the team a 20% chance to use their own intercept skills with auto interception. And that's enormous, and it's the most significant of any of these hidden abilities that we've seen to date. This doesn't impact him, obviously. He still has an 80% chance of cutting passes himself, because, let me explain this to you. The way that whether a player is going to auto-intercept or not is determined this way. Roll a dice. Whatever number comes up, if it's under the percentage, you do it. And the die is 100-sided. So if I roll an 89, then no, I don't pass cut. But if I roll a 70, then my actual pass cut rolls in. And you're thinking, oh, well, but you have 20 and 80, that would just cover everything, right? No, the 20 overlaps with the 80. So if you roll a 19, it activates both, but that's irrelevant because it's not like the bonus is stacked. You just get one auto intercept. All auto intercept chances are rolled for at the same time per player. Anyways, this Pascal goes from quite decent to nearly a must-play in any South American archetype team because of that. And we're almost to a full must-play South American archetype team. With all those auto pass cuts now available because of this guy, he might make it almost impossible, like, to not want to run South American. In fact, he might make it so that Rainbow South America is so strong that you can forgive green Salinas, and that's like a tall order. For his hidden abilities, he only got 3, and one of them is just nonsense. So let's talk about them. Intercept skill force 20%. Your interception skills are 20% stronger. No strings attached. Wildly good. Double S. Auto intercept enhance. Every other South American player on your team now has 20% chance to auto intercept. If you give all your South American players a decent enough pass cut, it's about to get seriously hard to pass over South American teams. Like seriously hard. That's also double S. Bumpy ground resistance C. PvE stuff. Whatever. Cool beans. Yep, that's it. That's all his 3 hidden abilities. He doesn't need any more. The 300 to every stat is just enough to make his stats actually nice enough, because that's what he got compared to the old version. He is a forward and attacking midfielder. His roles are defense, enabler, and clogger. He is a SS tier player, and I would still only say maybe, and the only reason I would say maybe, not 100% to pull on him, is because there's no goalkeeper yet for South America. There really isn't. Listen. Green Salinas is not good. He sucks. The blue Salinas, not good. He sucks. If they hit an ability of that character, sure, let's talk about it. If they release a new Salinas, like a red or a green or something, or maybe if Dreamfest Salinas finally comes and I lose $50, sure. But until then, kind of feels bad to pull this guy and then have to run green Salinas in the back. Anyways, for his limit breaks, this limit break is actually not the recommended one. It's important to mention first, though. His limit break you might use if you're going to play Pascal in the midfield and he has to actually do a lot of work as an enabler. Because, like, you don't have any other enablers, or because you want to make sure that he is quite a bit better at enabling and you're counting on the hidden ability buffs and all sorts of other stuff to actually do most of the interception work for you. Because listen, his interception is still going to be incredibly strong without going all in as it is, and 80% is a big incidence rate, so it may make sense to buff passing, tackling, and dribbling as well. So there's the full utility 16, 16, 18 first row, 17, 17, 16 second row. Now, if you really only care about passing and also about cutting every single pass, just go for the traditional route of 25 in pass intercept technique and then 25 speed, so you can get to the ball as fast as possible all the time. That's called the get it and pass it. As you can see again, speed, pass, intercept technique 25. Nice and straightforward. For his grading, my boy can't score. He's terrible at it. He's strictly better than completely incapable, but still not good. He has A enabling. He's not bad at it. Depending on how you limit break him, it might be better. He's a good defender. He puts on so much pressure, and not only that, but pressure, normally this rating is only for the pressure this character places, but because he makes everybody else place pressure too, it's double S by a lot. He's very independent. He doesn't need Diaz to be good because he doesn't need to be given a 1-2. But with Diaz, he is quite nice, but that just gives him an S independence. He's A for flexibility because he only really does a couple things. He can't do it in several positions, but not if he was also a defensive midfielder. Maybe if that had been like the fourth hidden ability to unlock defensive midfielder as a position, then he might be like triple S or something. For his skill support, double S, he has just the skill support that he needs. Really, honestly and truly, the skill support is actually more like a B. But in my mind, it's double S. It is, I put B here, but it's double S in my heart. Hidden though, double S, excellent. Passives, double S, excellent. And his team skill is A, it's not that great. It's weird to have an SS tier player that's only a maybe, and it's because the archetype's still a little weird and flimsy. I'm not sure it's all quite there yet. Being able to play South America as a full archetype right now requires a lot of weird decision making, having access to really specific players and team skills. It requires running a crappy goalkeeper. That doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. But getting him will feel rewarding. He doesn't just create pressure by himself, he makes an entire set of South Americans create pressure, which is next level. He doesn't really need anyone else other than South Americans to work. He can play 2 positions effectively, and so much of his kit is so wildly good that it's just hard to really put him down in any particular category. I mean, I guess he can't score, but he's going to help you get the ball back so much that it's irrelevant. For his stats, 1059 stamina, as you can see, his intercept does stand out here. That means that 8.7 dribble, 9.3 pass, 8.1 tackle, and 11.4 intercept. You'll notice that the tackle's not that high, but you still want to give him an A tackle if you can find it, because it's just nice to have as an out. Also, he's decent at low balls, but you're never going to use them with this character. For his skill build, he comes with S crab pincer interception. It's quite good, and it's also going to be even stronger. He also has A South American dribble, A Argentinian duo, and then you're going to give him S invincible pass, which is from the other Dream Collection version, and A swift sliding tackle, which I actually think is also from that version. Post limit break, your new hidden ability would make him an S99 intercept, that SE9 intercept will turn into a 546 momentum intercept, which is a 70.4k check. At S30, it normally be 317, but that makes it 380 instead. That's a 49k check. That's huge numbers. Those numbers are wildly high. If you play him also with the new modified hidden ability Diaz, you get 5% free stats, which will be really helpful to really cover all of your potential options. He's definitely improved a hell of a lot, and all he needed was 2 hidden abilities and a little stat bump. So, holy moly. Finally, the prize of this event is Roberto Hongo, the best technique. This Roberto's weird. He's in green, so he can't really escape green's curse, which is that every character's gotta be an enabler first for the most part, unless they're almost exclusively forward, and then sometimes even then. Second, he's not particularly good at anything that the game values right now. I know right now you're looking at those hidden abilities and you're screaming about how he totally owns Blue Japan. And sure, if that was the only thing that you needed and the only team in the entire game that you were ever going to play against for the rest of your life, I could see your point. But he's not, so I remain skeptical. First off, green has already found a way to play Roberto Hongo safely somewhere that isn't huddled away in the back, off position in the defense, and that's because of super solidarity, which I'm sure we'll see more of. If more of those come, and there's no reason to believe there won't, then many teams that run Green Japan and also Red Japan or Red South America or anything are gonna splash. They're gonna splash this character as some of their splashes to run super solidarity. It's going to let you comfortably fit Roberto in the midfield in an otherwise Green Japanese team, while also fitting something characters like Hino and Santana up front to round everything out. This guy gives and receives high balls, opens matches with 30% full power ready to go, and can enable. That's not bad, but I don't know if it's as good as people seem to think it is. Looking at his hidden abilities, he's got Agility Player Killer 25% and Japanese Player Killer 25%. Those are both rated SS, to be fair. If you get 25% to your stats each, if you face a blue player or a Japanese player, that's good. But if you face someone that's both, that's 50%, and that's really good. Recall though that you're already strong against blue players by default by virtue of being green, and it just means that you're just out here trying to shoot Dreamfest Ken or the new blue Genzo with a gun. Highball request, you can use your bad A overhead when someone gives you the ball. Woohoo! One day they'll give Tsubasa and Roberto access to a good overhead skill. Probably never. Anyways, he gets rain puddle resistance. Cool beans. That's actually kind of useful for some events, so don't hate on it too hard like I do. And then full power gauge up. This one's weird. I rated an S. It's because I don't know how to feel about it. 30% is the same as giving up 1 point, like giving up a goal, or losing 3 matchups where you guessed right. Although giving up a goal is 40% because it's 10% for beating the goalkeeper and 30% for the actual act of scoring. Because if it bounces off the post, you only get 10%. That's a lot of full power, by the way. Right now, the average timing, if you're mostly winning a game, is 30 minutes of in-game timer, or 18 to 22 if the game is close and there's a lot of trading the ball. Now it's going to feel more like 11 to 13 if the game is close, and you'll probably hit the actual full power by 20 in-game minutes, which is probably about where your opponent will get it if you score on them once very quickly. So by like 20 in, you'll both have full power, and that's actually kind of wild. Even though generally full power you want to be the second to activate, that is pretty wild. He is a forward and an attacking midfielder. His roles are striker, enabler. He is a counter to, again, blue and Japanese teams, especially both together. And he's also primarily valuable for the skills he has. I rate him an easy A tier. I think that maybe I undervalue him a little bit, but I think it's because the problem with this Roberto is that the blue Roberto exists, and he's so important. But would I get him? Would I farm or try to do well in this event for him? Yes, I would. If you are not doing so already, go ham on this event, because this Roberto is good. For the skills, you should get 2 if you can. 1 so that you can keep, and 1 so that you can give the skills to the blue one. For his limit breaks, if you're going to be shooting with him and also want to use his high passing to enable others, you're going to go with standard striker. Again, 25 speed, shot, power, and then 2203 pass technique. And the weird one, I wouldn't actually recommend it in this meta because it's so heavily blue and Japanese and you might as well take some shots occasionally. However, if the meta shifts later and Roberto ends up having like weirdnesses going on, this one might be a little more resilient. I didn't quite realize how low his tackle was when I originally made this, and the tackling skill might not be worth it, but depending on the skills that later appear, because apparently they might make more versions of Roberto, this one might stand the test of time a little bit more if you're not completely down on not giving him shot, and that will be the full utility 16-16-18 dribble tackle speed and 17-17-16 pass intercept technique. It assumes that there will be an intercept coming in the future. I 100% only recommend the standard striker, but this is another option for those of you who maybe see it and go, well, I don't really need him to shoot that much. I'm not going to really focus on that. Maybe I'll only shoot against Blue Japan, at which point your base shot with the 50% buff, you might think it's enough. You never know. Anyways, for his grading, he's an A scorer if you're not blue and or Japanese and or both. That's too many and or. It's just blue and or Japanese would have been fine. Then A is about right. Every time you face either blue only or Japan only, or you increase... actually, every time someone is either blue or Japanese, increase the rating by 1 for each of them that they are. So if it's a blue Japanese goalkeeper, he's an SS scorer. If it's a blue goalkeeper, he's just S. And if it's a Japanese goalkeeper, it's just S. Otherwise, he's A. Same with enabling, except with enabling, I guess triple S would be too much. Defense, he turns into an S defender. He never really does much with pressure. It's really just the first 3 categories that improve. He's pretty independent, although he does want to have Tsubasa. And he, in this case, the independence comes down to like counter characters are not very independent because they're not good unless you play them against the counter. And so I think his independence is kind of a B. He's kind of flexible though, despite that. He's kind of durable. He has decent enough stamina. His skill support sucks because Roberto, he doesn't have a lot of skills. His hidden skills, his hidden abilities are pretty good. Even though there's some really crazy ones because they're quite narrow-minded. I would rate him an A. Obviously, getting high balls is not that useful, etc. His team skill is an S though. It's quite nice. It's 10% to 2 different areas. And so that's nice in Japan and South America. And then, you know, he's got like a B passive. His passive being kicking a high ball is, I mean, I guess he will replace the green Levin if you can't find him. So there is that. A lot of people are going to use this Roberto to gut him for his skills to give to the blue Roberto. And a lot of people are going to try to make sure they get 2 of them just so that they can do that without feeling bad. That said, there's a lot to like here. Against blue or Japanese players, scoring, enabling, defense, and pressure are all a grade higher. And maybe even 2 grades higher against blue Japan, so that is worth mentioning. He's almost entirely a counter character who, outside the situation they are primarily supposed to be played in, is still pretty okay, but just not optimal. For his stats, 967 stamina. As you can see, 8.4k dribble, 9.2k shot, 10.3k pass, 7.3k tackle, and 8.3k intercept. Leads us to believe that an intercept is coming at some point, because it's pretty decent. And why not, right? Finally, for skill build, he comes with S flying drive pass, which is a pretty good pass, and he has access to it finally. S true skywing shot is what you'd give him from a dupe of the old blue Roberto. South American dribble, which I believe he comes with, then another S skill from the other Roberto, which is S student teacher duo, and then A strong tackle. So finally, Roberto can learn 5 skills. If you want to know, there's the exact same build I'd now give the blue Roberto as well. You may notice the only change from Roberto's core skills is the better S pass and the addition of the most common tackle in the game, which is A strong tackle. Remember that if played in a full South American Japan team, the blue Roberto gets basically 24% free stats, and 10% more on top of that half of the time with Natureza and Tsubasa, making that version quite a bit scarier because of all the buffs that he gives everybody else as well. I'm kind of telling you, Super Solidarity is going to make some weird teams quite the thing. Anyways guys, thank you all for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and click the like button and leave a comment telling me what you think of these players or of the video. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe and click the little bell icon to be notified of when new videos or posts are made before checking out the rest of the channel. Also, please consider supporting this channel and my work by leaving a tip by clicking on the Streamlabs link in the description or by joining my Patreon, where you can subscribe monthly and enjoy the unique benefits available to my Patreon subscribers. You can check that one out by following the Patreon link below or by using the URL shown in the video. Thank you guys for checking this out. I hope to see you all soon.